Hi, I'm doing one of these year in review things again. I guess this is a yearly thing for me now. So we're going to talk about some video stuff, some personal stuff, and just some other general things. So this was a real good year for me. I left my job late last year, and it has now been more than a year since then. And since then, I've been working hard for myself on some long-term creative projects that I needed to put a lot of time into, and I'm finally putting the time into them. And I'm seeing some payoffs on those. I'll talk about that a little bit more later. So yeah, no employment this entire year. My finances are exactly as stable as I expected. Like right before I left my job, I calculated how much time I would have with the money I had in the bank. And I reran that calculation recently with, whatever expense changes have been done since then, whatever I've spent, any little bits of income that I've gotten since then. And the date I originally calculated, which is sometime mid-next year, shifted 10 days into the future. So very close to where it was, but moving in the right direction. So I somehow bought myself a little bit more time by either being more frugal or getting little bits of money here and there. Patreon's helping a little bit, etc. So yeah, things are very stable for me. Everything's going basically as planned. So, very good year as far as that goes. Let's talk about video stuff. So let's see, current LPs that I'm doing right now. There's Magic Cube, there's Moonring, there's, oh boy, can I name these all off the cuff? I always forget like at least one. Magic Cube, Moonring, a Zelda game, Link's Awakening, that's the one, and Celeste, Strawberry Jam. And in the Final Fantasy slot, currently it's Chocobo's Dungeon on the Wii. Enjoying all 5 of those. They are good times. Every day I record, I look forward to doing it, and it's a lot of fun. So I was thinking of various things to talk about here, and I thought one thing that might be fun was to go through every game that I had finished or played at all in the year. But I realized that I only had things to say about some of them. So let's talk about the Let's Plays that I have things to say about that I did this year. So first, and perhaps most obvious, would be Final Adventure. That giant titan shattering all episode count records and just being an incredible time all around. It's over now, finally, after 177 episodes. And to be honest, I miss playing it. Like, 177... It feels weird to say this. It almost wasn't even enough for me. Like, it was enough. It was great. It was a complete experience. But I loved everything about it, and I would love more of it. So yeah, just nothing but good feelings for that. That was a wonderful experience throughout. I could definitely see a future where I revisit it at some point. But that would probably be together with revisiting Lost City and The Guardians, the other 2 prior things in the trilogy. So possibly all 3 of those. I think about them often. Kind of going chronologically here. The next one that chronologically by what? Start date, end date? However I put the list together. This is roughly chronological by some way you measure. Anyway, next one I have on here is Xenogears. So that was in a Final Fantasy slot. So the Final Fantasy and Friends slot. That ended this year. And I just wanted to call it out because the Final Fantasy slot gets a lot fewer views than the regular stuff for so many reasons, some obvious, maybe some not so obvious. One thing I wanted to say about this game, in particular, I found the experience of playing Xenogears to be somewhat comparable to the Return of the Obra Dinn, because it gave me a complicated story to pick apart with puzzles and pieces to move around, and I was making the same sorts of deductions as I did during the Obra Dinn LP during Xenogears. So if that's your jam and you missed out on Xenogears because it's it's the sort of game you don't usually watch, just gonna put it out there, it has some of that DNA in it. Like, as game stories go, it is quite exceptional. So that's what I had about that. Oh, right, and another thing that happened during Xenogears was this transition that I made away from streaming and then to premieres, then away from premieres to... Basically, that slot is just a normal Let's Play slot now. It follows a slightly different schedule. Videos tend to run a little longer. They're edited differently, as in not at all, a little bit, but they go through a different process. They're recorded in a different room on a different computer. So, there are some little differences here and there, but, it's still me playing a game the same way as whatever. Good times are to be had there. Right, Bonfire Peaks Lost Memories Part 1 happened, and thinking back on that, the main thing that sticks out in my mind is I feel a little bad about harping on the game bugs that I ran into in that game. The puzzles are good. I had a good time playing it. I enjoy the game overall. I'm looking forward to playing parts 2 and 3, which I don't know off the top of my head when those are supposed to be coming out. I want to say I saw a schedule at one point, but dates are not coming to mind at the moment. So anyway, parts 2 and 3 coming when they're ready. I will play them, and I will probably enjoy them, and I'll try to be less critical of the parts that I felt bad about criticizing. In a similar boat was Transneuronica, the little bit of that I got to play. This was a slightly different situation. So this is a friend of mine making the game and requesting that I play it, and I had kind of set my own expectations a little bit incorrectly for this game, which led to some expectation mismatch awkwardness, in that I didn't realize that it was going to be an early access game when I started playing it, and I was sort of applying expectations of a full release game, fully finished, fully polished, debugged, etc. So what I did with it kind of ended up feeling sort of like a playtest, and I just wasn't quite in the right state of mind for that, and I feel like my videos suffered because of it. So yeah, I feel a little bad about how that went, and I look forward to playing the full game and maybe giving it a better treatment. I like the game. I have fond memories of it. There were a few rough edges here and there, but again, I feel like I was too harsh on them. That's what sticks out in my mind when I think of that. So talking about other stuff, skipping forward a little bit, I guess I should mention, this big Legend of Zelda series project started this year. I started with the original Legend of Zelda, and what I'm doing with that is basically going through each entry in the Zelda series, to some extent. I'll talk a little more about that when I get to the future section. But I'm trying to approach it from several different angles. So this started with the Legend of Zelda First Quest, Legend of Zelda Second Quest, Legend of Zelda Randomizer, and then a ROM hack called Hellwalker. So kind of trying to roughly follow that pattern for the rest of the games in the series, but I just wanted to mention Hellwalker in particular. I'm realizing now, having played 2 more ROM hacks of like the next 2 Zelda games after that, that set the bar just impossibly high. Hellwalker is an immaculate masterpiece, and I think it set my expectations a little too high for like what happened going forward. Right, there's another thing that kind of hit the other end of that. But anyway, Hellwalker, spectacular masterpiece. If you're into ROM hacks, if you like Legend of Zelda, and you're up for a serious challenge. It is much harder than the base game, but like absolutely worth every bit of effort getting through. Hellwalker is fantastic. So another maybe little minor thing that just about flew under the radar was I put up one single video with my first impressions of Tactical Nexus in it. And let's see, when did this happen in the year? I need a date on this because dates are important. I have some things I want to talk about date-wise. Tactical Nexus happened on what's the 7th month? Is that June or July? That's July. July 10th. Yes, okay. This was after a thing that I will be talking about. So, that game is fascinatingly complex and opaque on first approach. I'm happy with the video I put up after I had done that. After I had recorded that video, I ended up spending a very large amount of time on the game on my own, got through several of the towers in it, learned how everything works, and saw a little more of the experience myself. It was not... I would not say it was Let's Playable. It would make for... I don't even know how I would do like an actual full Let's Play of that. Like, again, I'm happy with my one experience there. The rest just couldn't really be captured in that way. But game's a great time. Took a lot of my time. So there's this thing Steam does at the end of the year. This little like replay thing. They show you, here are all the games you played in Steam during the year. And here are the statistics on them. Tactical Nexus came in, what place was it? I have this picture over here. I should put it up on screen. Let's assume that I have done that. And as soon as I find where I've put that thing, I'll catch up with you what you're now seeing. Where is it, though? That's the one. Yeah, so Tactical Nexus, somehow, in terms of total playtime, came in second on the games that I had played. And in the graph... I guess I don't have a screenshot of this, but in the graph that showed me like what games I played month by month in the year, there was one single month. The month of July contains my entire playtime so far for Tactical Nexus, and it's 16% of everything in second place. So I got into it hard, and then kind of fell off it. I still think about it a lot, but it feels like a big thing to like come back and, you know, it's just very daunting, even now having cleared several of the towers, to come back and actually play it again. But this is just me playing on my own, not really relevant to channel stuff. Just wanted to mention because it was funny. It came in second despite it only being 1 month of the year. First and third are Grimrock 2 and Pizza Tower respectively, and then Celeste is after that, then Rogue Legacy 2. Yep, all that makes perfect sense with channel schedule stuff. But yeah, Tactical Nexus, just this weird extra spike in 1 month. Okay, so another thing. Let's talk about... Do I really want to talk about this? I put it on the list, so I guess I'd better. Pacarat, Down the Bun Burrows. I'm still kind of sore about this game, honestly. You thought these would all be positive things that I have to say. It left dedicated bunny routing circuitry in my brain, which I enjoyed employing to solve the puzzles in it, but like, ultimately, I was really kind of disappointed in that game. This would get an anti-recommendation for me for anybody who somehow is watching this video without having watched my LP of it and is thinking of playing it themselves. Just like, it'll look good for a little while, but then it becomes rather unpleasant in the late game for reasons that are not apparent until the late game. That's what I would say about it. And yeah, this just honestly does not get my recommendation as a puzzle game to play. And it's just one of those things where it's like, that realization came so late for me that I was already invested in it, and it just ended up being a negative experience overall because of that. I still had some good times with it, but... not all good times. And then the last thing, since we're going kind of in chronological order, like I was saying, Hellwalker set the Zelda ROM hack bar impossibly high. Parallel Worlds was just an absolute disaster. To the point where it caused me to change my vetting process for games and I guess ROM hacks in this case that I am considering playing. Like, it was that bad. Kind of Pacaret-like in some ways in that, like, the badness didn't become fully apparent until later. It just kind of got worse and worse and worse and worse as it went along. But started out kind of promising. So if you're thinking about playing that one, do not play Parallel Worlds. It is awful. Just, like, so many kinds of awful. It's one of the worst games I have ever played. I will say that. Anyway, so, done giving you thumbs ups and thumbs downs. That was a thumbs side. Okay. I'll give you some of those too. Whatever that means. Anyway, so, let's talk about the future. Really? No, that's the order that I've written these things down, so I'm following my script. Let's talk about the future. Upcoming stuff. This Legend of Zelda project that I'm in the middle of right now What am I currently playing in that? Link's Awakening. Yes, Link's Awakening DX is what's currently running there. I have plans to continue that at least as far as the twin Game Boy Color Oracle games. So that means in release order, so after Link's Awakening, Ocarina of Time, Majora's Mask, Oracle of Ages and Seasons in some order that I have yet to determine because they came out on the same day and they're not the same game, but they're twin games. Beyond that, I have no definite plans. So just to set expectations ahead of time, I'm not necessarily going through the entire Zelda series. It's up to the Twin Oracles, at least. Like that, those are for sure planned. Beyond that, maybe. I'll get to it when I get to it, and decide what I'm doing there. As far as Final Fantasy stuff, that project is still going strong, however many years it's been. Is this the fifth, sixth? I think I'm in the 6th year at this point for that, right? Like it started November, December-ish 5 years ago, and it's now the end of December. So yeah, I think we're entering the 6th year now. What year is it? Yeah, 2023. It started 2018. Yeah, so entering the 6th year for that. Anyway, so yeah, still going strong, although I have made a few little changes. So there was that reboot I did after Final Fantasy XII where I went back in time and played some games that I had skipped that weren't like mainline series, with the idea of covering like everything in chronological order as much as I could. I've kind of dialed that back a little bit after my experience with Crystal Chronicles in particular. Another game I had a really bad time with in ways that became apparent late, to the point where I don't want to play any more Crystal Chronicle games beyond the first because the first one was such a bad time. Maybe the later ones are better, but I kind of don't want to risk it, and I want to spend my time on things that I think I'll have more fun with. So I'm already skipping some games. For a very different reason, there are 2 DS games that I really wanted to play. Revenant Wings, Final Fantasy XII, and Tactics A2, Grimoire of the Rift, which would have happened by now if I was going in release order, but the Nintendo DS is a real pain of a system to record things from. I managed it twice for Final Fantasies 3 and 4, the DS remakes of those. And those had problems. The recording was a cumbersome process. My physical DS has a modification in it to give it a video out port, but that had some negative side effects in that the bottom screen kind of doesn't really work very well anymore. Emulating might be an option. What I worry about there is, one, latency. I tried a DS emulator, and I was playing Mario and Luigi Partners in Time on it. And like that's a game with a lot of specific timings in it for like you have button presses during combat for doing action commands, they call them, I think. Do they call it action command in that game? Timed hits, whatever. Timed hits in Mario RPG, action commands in Paper Mario. I don't know if Superstar Saga series has a name for them, but those things. And it was very noticeable that the emulator added a lot of delay to that. So that's one problem. Problem number 2, the touch screen. Mouse input's not the same. A drawing tablet's not the same because it doesn't have the screen on it and the spacing's different. And I don't know. I just don't trust being able to get the real experience in emulator form with the input methods on offer for that. So honestly, like any of you who have more experience capturing Nintendo DS footage than I do, if you have any thoughts about this, I am all ears because like there are games I'd like to play that I for technical reasons, it's a problem to play them. So any solutions to those problems that you may have come up with, I would love to hear them. Anyway, so Final Fantasy in the future, maybe a slightly more abridged thing, kind of just keeping it to like the games I want to play in it. So upcoming, after years, Final Fantasy IV sequel, if recording issues don't complicate this one too much, because that has other, oh boy, let's not get into that one, but if I can make it work, I'd like to do it. If not, then we're going to skip to Dissidia on the PSP. I know I can record PSP games because I did Crisis Core, and that worked okay. And then after that's going to be Final Fantasy XIII, which itself has 2 sequels, I think. 13.2 and Lightning Returns. I hear they're both better than the original, but that's contentious. Anyway, so getting back to actual numbered mainline games. And beyond that, who knows? That'll probably take me well through the end of the year. So check back in a year's time, and maybe I'll know then. So funny little channel history thing. I noticed that I've been playing the Kingsfield games at a pace of 1 game per year, and I'll probably continue that next year. I have been meaning to play Kingsfield 4, and it would be just about time in January, February, somewhere around there, to start that up. So kind of looking to slot that in right around that time if I have an open space for it. So yeah, just keeping up my 1 Kingsfield per year thing, and that'll be the last one, so I guess that'll be a 4-year thing. But anyway, yeah, so that's probably coming. Other stuff I'm comfortable talking about. Right, so I have a little experimental project in process. Project in progress. I'm recording a thing just completely outside the normal schedule of videos. I've done this before long ago. If any of you ever watched my Don't Starve series, this was run kind of like that, but things were a lot different back then. That was so many years ago. But like this one, I've recorded enough of it to be comfortable with. Okay, so I can tell you the game. It's a replay of Taskmaker, because that has a sequel called Tomb of the Taskmaker, which I've been wanting to play, but it had been so long since I played Taskmaker that I wanted to replay it before I got to the sequel. And I feel like my original Let's Play of Taskmaker had some problems, to the point where I'd kind of like to redo it. And I sat down one day and just said, let's record this without any idea of when it'll come, when it will go up, if ever. If I throw out the footage, great. I haven't wasted time like trying to record something to fill a slot that I'll just have to throw away. But footage has turned out great so far. And I'm just kind of doing that when I have a little bit of extra time and think, okay, I can record this. So that is a thing running in the background, which is formatted a little bit differently just because of the way it's recorded. But that'll go up at some point when I have a good place to put it. Yeah, so Taskmaker, cool game. It's fun, and I am gaining a new appreciation for it beyond what I had when I played it before years ago. And I look forward to seeing what's in the sequel. Yeah, let's just stop there. That's fine. There's other future stuff I could talk about, but it's the future. It changes. I don't trust things not to change. All right, fine. I'll follow my rule. If I wrote it down, I talk about it. The release date for the Celeste team's next game called Earthblade is supposed to be in 2024. So I'm looking forward to playing that if it does indeed meet its date. I won't assume that it will. I won't assume that it won't. But yeah, super looking forward to that, because like anything from that team has my immediate attention. So hopefully Earthblade in 2024, if we're lucky. All right, so a big thing that's been kind of sort of an open secret for a while, that I should just put fully out in the open at this point. There was a significant change to the way in which I record videos this year, right around July. This is why I was looking up the date on Tactical Nexus. So during my Final Adventure Let's Play, and others before that, there was a frequent problem where I had to just like dip out of comment sections completely because people would talk about things that would change my experience too much if I read them by accident, and I was just trying to figure out what would be a real solution to that problem. Like, I don't want to scold people for posting things. Everybody has different standards. I don't want to impose my expectations on commenters and, expect them to follow my rules. Like, why would you? Why would you have to follow my rules on what to do? So I looked for ways to change myself that could get around the problem of getting extra information about things that would cause me problems. Whatever you want to call them, spoilers, hints, tips, things I don't want to read that would affect how my videos are recorded. I came up with something. So I put this into action around July. I started recording, instead of 2 videos per day, I started recording 3 per day and kept that going for a while and built up a buffer to a certain point. I'm not going to say how much ahead I am, but I am now living in the future. Every video you see has been recorded at some point in my past. If you paid close attention to stuff like the save file dates in a medieval, you could probably figure out how much ahead that was recorded. So why am I giving you that hint? This is not information I really want out there, but that's unavoidable. Anyway, it's just there. So this is my way of doing things on my own terms without external information that I don't want to have. So you get to see my unspoiled experience of going through a game for the most part. Some things like, oh boy, Final Adventure had some long payoffs that took like 100 episodes to get to. I can't record that far ahead. But like just being a little bit in the future gives me the chance to, like, at the end of an episode, I don't have to worry like, oh, I saw this partial thing, somebody's going to talk about this, I need to be very careful about what I read. I can just think, okay, I'll record the next episode before this one goes up and not have to worry about accidentally seeing something that I didn't want to know for this thing that I predict people will be talking about. It just takes the burden off my mind, makes it easier to have a pure experience, and doesn't really interfere with what's going on in the comments. My plan was that like I could do this and be a little bit more present in the comments section because it was safer for me to read those. That part hasn't actually happened all that much. I'd like to be better, but I do what I can. I did notice a little bit of a shift, like more people would refer to me as he instead of you. So like talking about me instead of to me. So like on some level people caught on that I wasn't necessarily listening to them. I don't want to be all feisty about this or anything, but just like I have my standards, I have my way of recording. It is disrupted by external information. So this is my way of categorically solving that problem by making it impossible for external information to come in. And it's worked well. I've been happy with it. It also gives me like a little slot buffer. If there's a day when I suddenly have something come up in the afternoon and I'm very busy and can't record what would be the next day's videos, I can just not do it. Just do it the next day and not have any schedule disruption. Or like if I have to go out of town or something, I don't have to scramble to get videos ready for my absence. It's good. It's been a good change. This is actually similar to how the channel used to run way long ago, but that was also a different thing because like there was a time when I would sit down, and I remember doing this in particular during The Witness. I don't know why that one sticks out so much to me, but like, around the time that LP was happening, this is how things were running. Like I'd sit down, I'd record one episode, press stop, press record another episode, do like 4 in one evening, and then for the next few days, just not record anything. So I'd get ahead, then catch up and record more. I don't know, it was different. This is a much more organized way to do it because I'm like metering my things. I know how far ahead I am on each series at any given time. So it's been a good change. And I expect to keep things more or less like this. And I figure it's time to be open about this and actually explain what's been going on for those who haven't figured it out. Anyway, so I'm happy with how that is. So other stuff, I'll touch on it briefly. The productivity tools that I've been working on, Tile Editor's made a huge amount of progress. It's greatly improved. I'm not prepared to show like any clips of it right now, but this is kind of for me to use on my own projects. I've been hard at work, like I said, doing some long-running creative things, making investments into things that take a lot of time. The ultimate goal of all of these is to have a suite of tools, like my own little ecosystem that I can use for game development to very quickly put some things together for actual public release. And that's starting to pay off. So I'll talk first about the project that I mentioned last time I did one of these in March. I had a game that I was partially through writing at that point. Let's call it Stonefall. That's not the full name of it, but that's part of the name, and that's what I'll refer to it as right now. So Stonefall was an action game, kind of played similar to Crosscode in terms of like overall game flow. So, explore world, fight things in real time. It took place from the same sort of perspective. That was reasonably far along, and I ran into a sort of a tool barrier where my tile editor couldn't do something that I needed it to do. Oh no, my battery's telling me my camera's telling me it's running out of battery. Is this about to shut off? If you see a weird cut right here, that's why. Okay, that's better. I thought I had enough, but I also didn't think I would be so long-winded here. I always have a lot to say in these. Maybe I should do them more often or something. Anyway, yeah, so Stonefall, name of a game. This is probably pointed a slightly different way than it was. All right, well, nothing I can do about it now. Game I was working on got to a certain point where I needed my tools to do something that they weren't quite able to do. So I took a little break from that, and I should stop messing with this. Okay, stop touching it. It's fine. I took a little break from working on that game and invested some more time in my tools, and also realized that every project I start ends up much larger than I planned for it to be. Stonefall had grown a little larger than was appropriate for the space that it was filling. So I came up with a different game, and now I am working on one called Leaf's Odyssey, which is kind of a spiritual successor to Throw Rock, though more so than what that game is. It's sort of a Drod-like. Let's put it that way. And wander around a world, solve puzzles, clear rooms, there's combat, there's puzzles. Yeah, Drod activities, kind of like that. That's the easiest way to summarize it. And this one is pretty far along at this point. I will say that it has gone through one round of playtesting now, and I've never had a project get this far without eventually releasing it. So I have 100% confidence this one is coming out in hopefully the coming months, hopefully not too many coming months. I have a date in mind for I absolutely must finish by this date, and it's not too far out. I'm not going to say what it is though, just in case I slip it. But yeah, so this has been like everything I want in a game project, going extremely well. So I'm sure you will hear more about Leaf's Odyssey soon. I will have lots to say about it. It is a dream game for me in some ways, but also reasonably scoped and to the point where I have complete confidence that I'll be able to release it soonish. So yeah, I will be talking about that more and probably showing what the game is very soon. So anyway, exciting stuff for the future. Finally getting... so last game I released was Throw Rock, and the last one I did before that was... Don't have a ready answer for that. Convergence? Water Tower Classic? Water Tower Classic. Yeah, that was what it was, but that was a remake of a game I had made long ago. Yeah, so I don't release games as often as I would like to, but this is... My tools are getting to the point where I can fix that problem in the way that I want to do it, and this game, Leaf's Odyssey, that's coming out soon, is the first real step in that, beyond Throw Rock, which I guess Throw Rock was the first step, Leaf's Odyssey is the second step, etc. Anyway, so I'll be excited to talk more about that very soon, when it's a little bit more ready to be shown. And I hope you're all looking forward to it as much as I am. So anyway, I'll see you for another year of largely the same stuff, and also some new stuff, I'm sure.